So, you know how sometimes you get a teaching and a teacher will say a phrase and it sticks in your head. So this last week when Geshe Dado was here, he said a phrase a few times that has stuck in my head. He taught on the 6 far-reaching attitudes. They're also called the 6 paramitas. And the phrase that he said was, "It's not what you do, it's how you do it." And I've thought about that a lot. And, you know, I'm so conditioned to think about lists of things to do, of tasks looming, of deadlines to meet. And it's so interesting to think about this because when I'm in what you do mode, not how you do it, but the what you do, I'm approaching these things as if I have control over them. You know? Which is really silly. As if I'm the only one that's affecting them. Really quite removed from reality. And of course we bump up against this idea again of what ignorance actually is. That's ignorant. And so, you know, totally forgetting the interdependence of each task on the list with countless conditions that affect them. And of course, then this attitude, what does it bring? Some misery to myself and others. And so the 6 far-reaching attitudes are generosity, ethics, fortitude, joyous effort, concentration, and wisdom. But today I want to focus on this word attitude, the 6 far-reaching attitudes. So I looked up the word attitude in the dictionary, and it's defined as a mental position with regard to a fact or state, or a feeling or emotion toward a fact or state. And our attitude is really important in our thinking and behavior. So right now, if you labeled your attitude that you woke up with this morning, how would you characterize it? Was it optimistic or pessimistic or judgmental or discouraged or, you know, what was that? You know? And then to think how that attitude then starts driving us in a certain direction, how it influences, even if we set a motivation, how it influences that. Now, if we contrast that with thinking about the first paramita, generosity, if we actually generated that attitude right now, how would that affect our mind and behavior? So the far-reaching attitude of generosity is based on the wish to become a Buddha to benefit others. That's what makes it far-reaching. And it's combined with compassion and wisdom. And it's the wisdom that recognizes that the whole act of the generosity is a dependent arising. It's dependent on the giver, the giving, the gift, and the recipient. And if we think in this way, use this attitude and think of this in this way, then we protect ourselves from the misery of the self-centered thought, the misery of only focusing on ourselves and our task, you know, get the list done, whatever it is. Really, our attitude is very important to what we do. We can have all kinds of excellent plans and strategies, but if we don't have a positive attitude and a good motivation, it doesn't work out so well, at least in my experience. And if we have a positive attitude and a good motivation, we can do amazing things. You know, we really align ourselves with reality more, tap into the expansive power of the mind, can do many things, very amazing things. We have then the power to imagine the future in a positive way. And if we start out that way, then even though we come through difficulties, the mind can remain in an optimistic state. And our resilience comes through the power of optimism and hope. And we have the power to create this attitude of hope and optimism. It has to do with our perspective, what we choose to look at. And, if I reflect back to what I'm doing, not how I'm doing it, when I'm in the what I'm doing mode, my perspective is very narrow, very narrow. It's about me, and I'm going to push through and get this thing done. When it's how I'm going to do something, the perspective opens up. It can include others around me. And it's more reflective of reality. So check up and see what your attitude is during the day. Remember, you can shift your attitude to one that is more in alignment with reality, one that can bring some ease and contentment, moving us away from the misery of forcing ourselves to get the task done. And that's the what. And instead, shift our focus to how we're going to do something. Because, at least in this environment here, what I've learned over the years is there is never anything that is done. There really isn't. And even if, something changes today, it is immediately replaced with something else that comes. And so this thing about approaching things with a list, with a task, with the next thing to do, just what I'm doing, is not so helpful. Not so helpful. So how are we going to approach the next activity? What attitude can we bring forward that will help ourselves and those around us?